Cloud. So, and for all those who are participating live with us, welcome. Today is Sunday, February 28th, 2021, and this is Through the Lens of MLK, Managing Risk with Greater Peace. And I'm very excited to have this conversation. As you may know, this is we're getting to the end of our series Through the Lens of MLK, and the purpose of this series is to look at the influence and impact that Martin Luther King Jr. has had on various sectors of society. And I'm the director of the peace sector for the Charter for Compassion, and specifically we're looking at ways in which MLK has influenced different aspects of peace. So I'm having a little bit of some technology issues here. So while I get out of our opening screen, I'm going to allow our fabulous guests to tell you their name and where they're located, and then we'll tell you a little bit more about them in a minute. Okay, so thank you. Go ahead, Elaine and Eddy, you want to tell us where you are?
Well, I'm Dr. Elaine Christine, and I'm chiming in from Merritt Island, Florida. And I'm so happy to be here. I am a managing risk expert, and I'm just so pleased to be invited. I've been a charter partner in the peace sector at the Charter for Compassion since 2015. So thanks for welcoming me. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. And
thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Erna, for inviting me to this web. I'm called Eddy, Kalisa, Nyarwaya, in Rwanda, based in Kigali. I'm afraid to say I'm an expert, but I work in peace building and reconciliation, especially in post-COVID conflicts. Yeah, that's why I will stop. And then I'm also child daycare profession.
wow. Okay, so thank you both for those introductions. I'm going to tell you people a little bit more about the two of you because I know you're both quite humble here. So Elaine, I'm going to speak first about you. So American author with a biography listed in Who's Who in America, Elaine founded Aquaterra in 2005 with a mission to bring peace to every mind. She's a female pioneer in computer science. She earned the first doctoral dissertation in the field of software risk management, and her textbook entitled Managing Risk was first acclaimed by the Pentagon and translated into Mandarin Chinese at the University of Beijing. Elaine is notable for writing a 6-step process for world peace and publishing the Peace Prophecy Trilogy and hosting the annual World Peace Telesummit. Dedicated to uplifting humanity and the new peace consciousness, Dr. Christine has a goal to train 10,000 peacemakers online at the Aquaterra Institute of Peace. Since 2015, Aquaterra has been a charter partner in the peace sector at the Charter of Compassion. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you, Lisa. My pleasure.
And now I'd like to tell everyone about Eddy. He is the founder and director of the Institute of Conflict Prevention and Peace Building in Rwanda. He is also director of Good Life Foundation for Child Advocacy and the Protection, which promotes early childhood education in Rwanda. He holds a master's degree from Nikomba University in Uganda. He has given public speeches to universities and churches around the world on Rwanda after the genocide against the Tutsi and his own experience in an orphanage during the genocide at 8 years of age. Today, you're going to hear a very powerful story of Eddy's story, and you'll also hear Elaine's sort of transition from working within the peace sector, within the risk management sector to focusing on peace. And I just want to jump back to Eddy for a little bit, and we'll hear some of this about his own journey from being in genocide to the incredible peace work he's doing and helping children. But which we'll hear shortly, he was given an inspiration through divine communication, if you will, in which he received an insight that every person is a flower. And so that theme becomes very apparent in his life story. And so as you're listening, listen for bits and pieces of that. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our conversation. So part of the reason for today's conversation was, as I mentioned in the real introduction here, was or is the recognition that Martin Luther King Jr. experienced incredible risk, frankly, in his work towards the civil rights movement. He experienced personal abuse and arrest, and the bombing of his home made it very clear that the risks that he was taking in order to move forward within the civil rights movement. He faced obstacles while on his mission for equity, from, as I said, personal abuse and arrest to the bombing of his home. He was arrested over 20 times for protesting. He was the object of some very violent attacks on his own body and his home. He received threatening phone calls. His home was set on fire. His family was put at risk, and he was even stabbed. And yet he, and interestingly, which I hadn't realized until I had done some of the research here, was that the violence towards him was not only from whites, but also from Blacks. And so, you know, he just still continued to keep on going. And that's kind of the theme that we're going to be looking at today, is in the face of horrific adversary, what is it that makes you choose love, care, compassion, goodness over fear, anger, and violence? Because certainly Martin Luther King exemplified that. And throughout, we'll probably have some more of a discussion about that. But without further ado, I'm going to invite you, Elaine, first starting as an expert on risk and risk management, and then moving into working for peace. Can you share with us a little bit about your own story and how that journey went for you?
Yeah, I'll try to make it brief. Basically, I was looking for something within my PhD, the doctoral work, as I was working full-time and I became a stepmother of 2 children. I was looking for something that was a slow mover, because being in software in the 90s, it was very fast moving and a real burnout kind of career. I have one of the first products out for the Macintosh in the 80s, and also one of the first medical software with the Macintosh in the examining room. So, you know, I was well versed in software, but I wanted my PhD, and everything was moving so fast, I couldn't keep up with it. But I thought, oh, risk management, that's a slow mover. Nobody wants to manage risk. But you know, the truth, Lisa, is that relatively risk-free opportunities are long gone. And risk is on the rise because it increases as some system complexity increases, which is what we're experiencing now with the advent of the internet. So managing risk becomes necessary when risk prevents us from achieving our goals and objectives. So we inherit risk as we assume these roles. And as Martin Luther King, who is a mentor of mine, not that I knew the man, but that I appreciate his work for peace, but he assumed this role of world peace leader, and that through that he inherited tremendous risk. And I must say that his life is a testament to being able to manage the risk, because we are still influenced in a positive way through his work today. So his life and his legacy live on through us. And definitely want to just give a shout out to Martin Luther King, and just from my heart to yours, we lift your spirit up, and we continue that journey on your behalf. So I do like to tell people what risk is. It's simply the likelihood of loss. So mathematically speaking, you would take that likelihood, whether it's 0 to 100%, and you would multiply it by the consequence. Now, the consequences of your own choosing, maybe you're concerned about the financial risk, maybe you're concerned about the health risk. I know the medical community doesn't make any decision without considering the risk, but the truth is, you don't know your your opportunity until you know your risk. So looking at the downside, looking a little bit into the future around the corner, and forecasting what it is that you could do to help decrease your risk. So that's the brief and skinny about risk itself, and how I came to have that be my own doctoral work, so that I became the expert to write the textbook Managing Risk.
So I have to ask you, because so you spent your life embedded in risk. So you're constantly surrounding of looking at the world from kind of a fear-based perspective, right? You know, what's going to happen? How am I going to deal with it, etc. And then you, on a personal level, you've evolved into really working towards peace and living a life of peace in relationship to spirit, and also helping many other people. In fact, as you mentioned, as I mentioned in your bio, your goal of 10,000 peacemakers.
Mm-hmm.
That's very different than managing risk. Can you tell us a little bit about that transition?
Yeah, so it was August 5th, the year 2000, and I was walking the beach like I normally do on the weekend. It was a Saturday morning, and all of a sudden I saw the peace symbol in my mind's eye. It was, my eyes were open, was not in the clouds. It was a projection, but a violet neon glowing peace symbol. And immediately I just burst into tears because it was God, and I was feeling the shame of the life that I had created. So at that time I was doing some forgiveness work surrounding my blended family. And anyway, it really did kind of wake me up to the divine, and also that I am a flower too, Eddy, but that flower that I saw in consciousness, yeah, that's really been my go-to vision that set me off onto exploring the consciousness and what was that was coming through me. And so I just began writing, and that evolved into the Peace Prophecy Trilogy. So 3 books, and that was about a 20-year journey.
So was a complete slow but steady transition process.
Yes, because as soon as I had seen and it was just for a moment. These things are like, you know, lightning just for a moment.
Right.
But then I came upon baby turtles being born on the beach.
Wow, that's very different.
Just a symbol that it was going to be a slow journey.
Yeah. So on that, you know, it's very interesting transition that you went through, very much of an intellectual sort of choice that you made through your relationship with spirit and through a spiritual experience that you just shared. Mm-hmm. Now, in our pre-conversation when we were planning this call and talking about, this is one of the things that we wanted to focus on today, is the choice that we make. So yours was one form of a choice. And I want to just contextualize this, because I don't want the comparison. You can't compare fully somebody who's living a very, very comfortable life in the US as just a person, you know, and obviously I share this with you as a white-skinned person of privilege. We can't compare this story fully to Eddy's story, who was in Rwanda. But what's inspirational about both stories is a relationship with spirit, and to move towards peace. And ultimately, the conversation we'll get into is, how do we manage that gap between addressing issues of fear, whether it's as a profession or a lived experience, which we'll hear from Eddy, to choosing peace. So on that note, Eddy, welcome. And I'm going to ask you to share with us some of your story.
Thank you, Dr. Risa. Where should I exactly be starting, if you will, if you may just, I don't want to take.
I think.
On which particular?
I think maybe to begin with, living in the genocide, and if you're comfortable sharing with that, because that really is the foundation. I mean, of such horrific experiences that you've had, and yet you ultimately, through your relationship with spirit, thoroughly changed and made a series of choices that are really from choosing death to choosing life. So,
thank you. Yeah, as Riza has mentioned, Eddy, Eddy Kalisa. I was born early 80s, and genocide happened when I was probably 9 or 8, around there. I'm not sure the date I was born, and I don't celebrate birthdays. Well, we were born as any other children. We had our wealth, which was cows and farms, as many African countries, especially 30, 40, 50 years ago. We were not very much rich in Rwanda because of one of the education was very low to many people, and was very selective, and the job were selective to those who belong to powerful government, and which they are later on carried out genocide. So genocide started in Rwanda around as slightly after during the independence, while other countries in Africa were celebrating to be self-governed and determination, while one part of section of Rwandans or Rwandese were chasing away others, and others jubilants or jubilating. Exactly, that's how genocide started around 1959, and was massacre, killing Tutsis on facilitated by churches, which I don't want to mention now. So even in 73, when there was another government which came of coup d'etat, every year almost, the celebration was eliminating the Tutsi, and therefore created the fear, and others were escaping and migrating to Uganda, Kenya, Sudan, Burundi, Tanzania, Congo, all the surrounding countries, neighboring countries of Rwanda. So had about 6 million from Rwanda, or 7. So when the genocide started, we had many relatives in an area called Nyamata, which now where we have schools where we're feeding and sponsoring kids, where we have about 50. I mean, our program is about 500 kids, but we have 50 different schools or centers where we do sponsorship and feeding and reducing the stunting. So that changed the game. That changed the life when you lose everybody, and even those who are in Uganda, where had the people, and where were easier people to escape to go during the genocide. Somewhere he also massacred on the way or what, and also there was now the new government, the new regime now in place, which was trying to stop the genocide and heed those who were really in agony, state of agony, and being threatened and bunched by the different merchants. So, but after that period, or during that period, slightly after that period, that's where we are taken with my siblings to the orphanage, which we took many years, about 6, because I started a school in the orphanage center, and where also some kind of a prison, because you don't have a holiday, you don't go for Christmas, you don't know, no clothes, no shoes. You're eating maize flour and beans for all those kind of almost those. That's when Christmas time. That's when you could have meat or rice. So the life was, and even the mistreatment was very, very high. Remember, you don't have anyone who's a relative, and you look as if you are new public nuisance, and you have no value in the society. something like that. Some people have good hearts, others have bad hearts, who are teaching and beating and harassment. Also, years back, Africa, many countries, in Africa in general, harassment of kids, of people, students, people were high, beating and talking in bad words. So when you're a teacher, you would be like as if you're a king to your kids. So all that was old mentality. I don't know where they got it, whether it was a colonial mindset, I don't know. Whether it was a traditional mindset of harassing and talking and making big words and noise to the children in class. That was the order of the day. But now it is really reducing by the training. Actually, that's what we do. We train the teachers and the parents about that. So after orphanage home, we become a wanderer. We become a wanderer for quite also about 6 or 5 years, if not about 6. You're becoming a wanderer, and you are in agony still. You are it affected, especially me. It affected me particularly. I was a father of my younger siblings. I was a head of the house, and of course you don't have accommodation, you don't have food, you're not going to school. So what I did was also to drop the school and start supporting and work as a maid. So some people call it shamba boys, but a maid at home where you work. In Africa, we have maids. So those so that I raise resources, small money to get a rent, but also to support my siblings to go to school too, to high school and the primary, and became a father and responsible and active. Then it ended me going to churches so that I can maybe have friends, and the churches were more also select after genocide. Now it's quite different. People are changing, but years back at 10 and so people are more friendly and so solid and coming together and embracing. So at least I would go to church and get where to hang out and jump and enjoy and make noise, and you know how African churches they do. After church service, you have nowhere to go. People are going to lunch or have lunch or what or out. I have nowhere to go. I stay to church. I stay to the church. I do some cleaning. Also, I did that for a couple of many years. And no one would sit. No one would even recognize. No one even ask me, you guys, I always see here, where are you? Where do you stay? Where are you going? Where are you? Who are you? Why are you here? No. But I did that. And I did that about 5 years, 6. But by that, God also helped me. I started now being active, and that's why I was able to start translating. Some Americans who come to preach, some Britons who come to preach in churches, these Pentecostal churches or revival churches, as they call it in Africa, or community churches. But really, life was hard, and I was always, as I mentioned to you some days back, going to UNA offices and verbally attack them and make some noise to them and threaten them. And I was just about 13, no, I was about now 15, 16, making noise and like that. But because of trauma, it was a trauma. And you know, you have a big family, loving family, you have a mother, you have a dad, but it was the shortest time. The things has changed. Many people have lost, and many one, even actually in Rwanda, in the genocide against the Tutsi, some families were eliminated completely. No one remained even a single person. To that extent, how they again, where I want to applaud the government of Rwanda, they have really tried to bring life between two people and feel it and start feeling in life and some sense and respect and loving one another and reconcile. So that still I was not yet healed. I was still of carrying the hatred and the resentment. Resentment was more like a stone in me somewhere. But I was lucky, let me say that I didn't join the army or because during the war, after the war, younger people intend to leave school and join the army because the order is not more organized. So I never had this thought, and I completely never thought of that side. I don't know how, but if I had a gun, I would have tried to do revenge here and the government of Rwanda, the country government, was very strong about revenge. You would revenge and also go to court, or they punish you for 20 years or 30 years. So, but I never thought that side. But verbally, I was attacking the other people, the people not necessarily who killed this side, but also from that tribe. I also I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to look at them. I don't want to shoot with them. I'm like putting poison, telling them poison from my mouth. Yeah, let's say for you, if you're at school, let's say, no, yeah, don't greet me. If you want to greet me, your parents or your relative who do not have killed our people, something like that. So, and I'm telling my fellow child or younger boy or young. So it was really trauma. But turning point now to jump from it's 2000. I was invited by some Americans churches from Minnesota. They came to do retreat, and the pastor insisted that I should go because I was active and had some level of English, and I was really active in the church because he thought I'm good, but my heart was not good, was sick. So he insisted, you can go and help them to translation. When I got there, after I'm quiet, I'm not talking, I'm putting down whatever they say. I said, who are you reconciling? Who are you in my heart? Who are you reconciling? And those are the questions also I'm asking them. You're asking the killers and the victims, really, and the mechanists, are the ones to reconcile us, to tell us what to do. Those are the questions I was putting to them. What do you know to reconcile this society kind of attitude? And so one time they told us to go for meditation. One evening, I'll never forget that. It was around 3 p.m. and that's where I had divine voice, divine message. So when they told us to go to retreat, I said, "What for meditation?" I said, "What am I going to meditate? I'm not a Catholic. I don't know this thing of meditation. What am I going to meditate?" They said, "No, you just go in the trees and sit in the grass and." So that's when I had a divine voice, if I may call it divine. I had a voice in me telling me, look at these flowers of different colors, purple, maroon, yellow, pink, orange. There are many, and when there are many, they make this place, this garden, beautiful. So you are the Tutsi, Hutu, Pygmies, or Twa, you are all beautiful. You're all my flowers for this country. Minus one flower, the beauty of the other side will not be seen or shout. So your flowers, you're beautiful to me. No any single flower that is not worth it to be my flower. I said, what? Oh, I felt I'm quenched. I'm getting cold, and I jumped and got these 3 pieces, leaves of flowers, about 3 or 4. I went back to the retreat room. They were calling us to go back. But normally I had gone there. Why I went for this retreat was to eat. Because we are not eating, I was not eating, or just as a wanderer sleeping for somebody's home, another, I've never eaten and feel satisfied and or have breakfast, milk or sugar or eat good food. So I said, let me go spend 1 week in a guest house, have good food, sleep in a guest house. That's all. That's really not because I listened to pastor or I respected the pastor. Because I know, I said, now I'm pushing days. Now I'm safer for that week. Now I'm becoming a human being to be with, to eat like any others. Because I would go to, from the church, or some people would invite me to go and have lunch together or dinner together after the service. I see my niece, I see they have chips, they have rice, They have potato, they have banana, they have meat, they have French beans. On September, I said, what? They have any fruits? I would ask them, you're going to eat all this the same table? They said, yes. I said, what? It was, I couldn't understand how people can have that variety of food, just lunch or dinner. I said, huh? Then I would eat as if I'm going to die tomorrow or next day. So I said, now have a time for 1 week eating that kind of food, otherwise I'd never get satisfied. That's why I asked to speak. I told them, I said, you guys, I'm a changed person. I feel that we are flowers in Rwanda. There is no ethnicities. There is no tribes. There is no who should. So that's how I started pushing the message. Later on, I met American lady from Massachusetts, Boston, who sponsored me. She never knew me, and that's why actually now I'm carrying the message of sponsoring children. She never knew me. She has never met me. We met after university, after my master's, when I was in East. That's when I met her. Just last year, but 219, sorry. So I went to school, but when I went back to school, to high school, I started preaching the message of reconciliation and the healing and unity. Yes, I want to stop there so that you can maybe ask a different after this. So that's how I became a peacemaker. That's why I became an environment person. Later on, when I was joining university, then another movement of non-violent people called the AVP, Alternative to Violence program. It came to Rwanda. I was also trained, then it became training the judges of Gacaca, which is court system, which was adjudicating or dealing with the case of genocide of minor cases or lower cases. So I became more among a trainer or facilitator of them. So I spread the message then here and there, Uganda and where, which I don't want to go now to this time. But later on, that's how we started this organization when I was at a campus of peace building and reconciliation. And now we are hoping by God's grace to keep doing this. Let me stop from there. But we have youth, we have women, etc.
It's such important work. And what I'm inspired by is this moment of sort of surrender that happens, that where you said, okay, fine, I'll go meditate. Like, I don't really want to, but okay, whatever. Where it's like, divine inspiration came. And when you hear your story, it's that you are willing to let it go and choose another way. I'm reminded actually of an MLK quote where he says he's making reference to Jesus, and he in this is Jesus. But so he knew that the old eye for eye philosophy would leave everyone blind. He did not seek to overcome evil with evil. He overcame evil with good. Although crucified by hate, he responded with aggressive love. And I love that quote because I think it really exemplifies in two very different ways what both of you have chosen. And very dramatically, obviously you're talking about the crucifixion. So that's death and or rebirth. But, I think that the quote speaks to both of your stories. So I just want to take a minute and thank you both for sharing your stories, and thank you for the courage to choose peace, to choose love. So I want to pivot a little bit or explore this idea from a different arena, because every day we're all still dealing with risk all the time, whether it's COVID, whether it's oppressive governments, whether it's people's fear, the desire for power. How do you see yourself living the choice of love or your relationship with spirit? How do you maintain that on a day-to-day basis?
Well, Lisa, I wanted to go back to risk because what I did was I felt this 5 level maturity model for risk management capability. And so everyone can kind of apply this to their own self, because it does begin, you know, with yourself and the role or roles that you have taken on. So wherever you are, whatever your, you know, role is, you can manage risk. And I like to say it's a like, it's a like, it's a like, it's like a lot like playing golf.
Okay.
That may be totally inappropriate for some of you, but in Florida, we have more golf courses per capita than anywhere else in the world. So we are, you know, surrounded by golf courses. So here's my metaphor. And again, it's a 5 level that you want to think through from novice to expert. Okay, so there are known risks on a golf course, and you know they include the sand traps and there's water hazards. And we recognize the skill level of the golfer by how they manage the risk. So number one, you're a novice. Okay, you have no training on the golf course, but that novice has no idea how many balls they're going to lose on the golf course. They just know they better start the game with enough balls because they're probably going to lose some to the risks, right? And number two, the beginner. If you're a beginner and you've played golf and you've lost a bunch of balls, you know that around the water hazards, you might want to take out those old balls and not play the shiny new ones, right? But number three, if you're an intermediate, then because you know your capability more with your irons, right, your tools, then you might want to lay up before that water hazard before you attempt to cross it, right? Because you know, you just, you know, not going to be maybe that great about it. But number four, when you're advanced, then you determine this width of the water hazard and you select the appropriate club. You may push your limits, the capability, or you lay up depending on your margin that you need to quote unquote win, right? Okay, number five, if you're an expert, experts do not see the water as an obstacle. When they take aim, they account for both the wind direction and velocity. Then they visualize the ball landing in the perfect place for their next shot. So what I want to ask you, my viewers, is where are you on the golf course? Do you know where the pin is? Do you know your capability with each club? Can you determine the dimensions of the hazards? Can you select the appropriate club? Can you aim for the pin? Will you focus on the ball and take a swing and follow through? Assess your shot for improvement and then take corrective action as required. And that's my 10-point game plan for you.
Got it. Well, I'm not a golf player, and I was able to follow the analogy. In fact, I know very little about golf, so but I get the analogy basically, you know, is really also, you know, in your more concrete example rather than the assessment pieces, what the expert doesn't focus on the challenge in front of them. They focus on the long-term vision. And I think that that's really the most important part of your 10 points there.
Yeah, and the vision that I was given is essentially that there is no risk. There is no risk in the big picture because nothing is ever lost. I mean, I know Eddy, he lost his tribe, he lost his family, but they are in consciousness. I do believe, you know, they are waiting for him in heaven and they will be reunited and maybe even reincarnated, but that's going way out there. But you do kind of have to expand your mind to the outer limits of the universe and just realize that we are in a universe that is ever expanding and it is unlimited. And so for whatever tragedies and highs and lows and the mountains and valleys that face us in life, my life has gone up and down, not as radically or as dramatically as Eddy's, but I think the deeper we're willing to live into our life, just from Eddy's example, from Martin Luther King's example, you go to the lowest low so that you can soar to the highest height.
Well, I think you make an important point, and this is sort of the essence. I think a lot of what Eddy was getting at too is by choosing to go with your own relationship with spirit, whether it's something like Christ, like the Martin Luther King quote, or whether you're a pagan or a Buddhist or Jewish or Muslim. It's this relationship with the unknown of that's ultimately about trust. I see, Eddy, were you going to say something? I saw you. So.
Huh?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I liked the Dr. Kristen presentation of I think every human being has a room, a place in him to go for the good, to be peace lover, to not push other people, to do what is right for this humanity. Every human being. Again, when you go for the expertise, as expertise and the professionals, as she mentioned, you just allow to be used by that power, by that good, by that positive in you to grow and expand and reach other people. The bad people, let me say the bad, and no one is bad, only that they decide to do the bad thing, will decide which side to follow, to listen to, either to hurt other people, either racism, whether either Black or Asian or African, to see others in a different mirror. That's the choice one makes. But when you see the progress of any peaceful society, there must be people who pushes that, like Martin Luther, like any others, like Gandhi and others, who are undivided. They're always that culture they inculcate, they plant, they seed to generation to come. I have met many challenges of my former high school and universities, and they said, Eddy, why are you need this thing that doesn't pay you, that doesn't yield, that doesn't make you drive a nice car, something like that, or build a house. But the foundation we are laying, we're in footsteps for others who did that, and we must really keep the candle burning to generation to come. I mentioned the Americans from the New Hampshire, Minnesota, and New Hampshire came, who shared the message of healing and reconciliation, and then I got the divine inspiration from these guys who fed me for a week, going for the food, and eventually my heart was turned. Probably we need not to change, to reach out to thousands and thousands, and sometimes that's our worry. But to change one person will change others. I appreciate.
Very, very profound wisdom. Very profound wisdom. And so important. I'm going to just sit with that for a second, because it's the realization of, one person can make a difference. And, I want to jump back. Actually, I'm going to just sit for a minute. When you look at the work that you're doing now, also Eddy and Elaine, because I know a little bit, Elaine is also working with children as well. And I think that, or I guess my question for you both is, given the shifts that you've both made in your life, how do you see it impacting the children and basically the future?
We have to educate the children in emotions and how they impact one another with their words and with their thoughts. Thoughts are things, right? Was it Dr. Masaru Emoto who had the water crystals, and the children would pray over the water crystals and they became like little daisies, I believe. But thoughts are things, and what we think about one another is really maybe something that we're just learning within the last century. And so some of this newer technology that we have can be used to educate the children, but I do it through a 6-step peace process, and they go through that. It's called peace porpoise, because around here we have dolphins in the river, and so they love the dolphins, and they help peace porpoise bring the world more peace. And so the first thing that they do is they discover why we don't have world peace. And the 5-year-olds can tell you why we don't have peace, because there's too much fighting. And then the next thing is we ask them to envision what it would look like if they had it now. And they also know how to be a friend to one another and bring that peace. And then we ask them to take one action step that they can take, and they'll do everything from clean their room to take out the garbage. And then the next step, I do a little meditation. And what we do is we spin the globe, and they can point to a place on the earth. It could even be an ocean. And then we all, as a group, send peace and love to the people on the continent and the animals that live there, and also for clean air and water, of course. But after we do our work to bring the peace, then I ask them to measure on a scale of 1 to 10, how much love did they really send? And they'll tell me how much love they really sent. And, you know, they'll even go over 10 if they really felt good about it. And then I ask them to value the time that we spent helping Peace Porpoise bring more peace to the world. And all of the children value helping Peace Porpoise.
Wow.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What about you,
My
Eddie?
turn? Yeah, first of all, I want to really appreciate Kristen's approach. And I think even as we continue with the charter programs, maybe she will also be talking with her on this peace work. I mean, peace with the children. I think since they're involved in the children, peace in the children, but also myself being in the working with the children, maybe we can see how to what and where to see how we can support one another and in regarding to peace with the children. Almost the difference is minor for what they do. Maybe for them they do extra thing, which is very good. For us, we deal with the very little children from 2 to 10, 12. But mostly we deal a lot with from 2 to 7, 8. Those are the schools we have. And then when they leave our schools, they go to public, and that's in elementary, I mean in the high school. So we don't really have much connection, relationship in terms of peace. Regardless of our curriculum of teaching and all, but how do we do with the peace? We have a peace tree in our schools. And this peace tree is we consider it as a human being, as one of our members of the school. So these kids, they go there, take some water, pour on it, do some playing around, jump, and whenever there is a peace day in our schools, in our ECD, in our children, so we gather under this tree when there's a peace day, and we wish one another peace, to be peace and peacefully and live in coexistence and harmony. We consider telling this tree that this tree is the mother, is our big brother, big sister in our school, because every kid who comes will find this tree in our garden, in our school, our schools. So we planted them, and once in a week, each child or each day has a day that will care this tree powering, and we assume this is just a symbol of caring one another.
Mm.
Because we want these children to grow with a sense of humanity, of respect, of one another, and also environment, loving environment. So we want to kill two birds with one stone. These kids to grow up with protecting and loving environment, but also be peacemakers and peace lovers. But we use these signs of the trees. So we have a peace day, not International Peace Day, but our own peace day in our schools where we talk about peace. Imagine asking for child, what do you think is a mahoro? A mahoro is a peace. What do you think is a peace? And you say, when I'm peaceful when I don't cry. I'm peaceful when David doesn't beat me up or push me. So those are small level of, and then say, why do you push David? What made you push? How is home? How do you behave at home? So those are the I don't want to take much time, but those are the more inculcation. And I'm the one, when I'm in Rwanda, heading that process of discussion. And the teachers are there listening. We sit down on our mats and we want to be equal, in the same level of sitting arrangement. Maybe probably we're having our porridge, then we are discussing that. And also our teachers, our caregivers are so now trained that they don't make noise to the children. They don't make noise or shout, because we believe in learning experience. We are learning from kids and kids are learning from us. So we want a sense of respect and ownership. No one is owning the children. No one is owning us. It's God who owns us. So we want to, these children, that one of their leaders, they don't be, hey, we are up there and this one, they are down. So we want that kind of respect one another and listening to diversity of thoughts at an early age, and not thinking they are opponents or they are opposition or they are what, as we say. There are a couple of different stuff, but also from there, I really did appreciate, and also giving us this time of talking about our gathering. We call it gathering, peace gathering. But maybe, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, starting, maybe there are some few stuff I'll be learning, I can learn from the Christian approach, and also perhaps we're dealing with the children, but also learning from us, if you will. Thank you.
Well, hopefully those are such an incredible, you're doing incredible work. I mean, I love this with the tree. I just love it. Yeah, beautiful. And I love the interconnection. So I hope that the two of you will continue this conversation after we're just about time to the end of our time together. Just very quickly, if any of the people who are watching with us live have any questions, you can feel free to type it in the Q&A chat, in the Q&A box or in the chat box. But before we wind this down, I love how we've gone into each of your lives, going from a relationship to spirit, really in the place of either thinking about fear all the time and how do we manage risk on that level, to living with terrible fear and trauma and physical harm coming your way and abuse and violence, to a place of surrender or openness where some relationship between you and your own spirit takes into your life. And then with that, this recognition that really we need to be working with the children, and that really we're all one, in body or out of body, and really just the exquisite belief system that holds, and how that enables us to move forward and do very good work. And when you were speaking, I had to find a quote. I couldn't remember it all, but I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit. But when MLK was speaking about doing this work. He says, and when this, doing peacemaking work and working towards equity and justice and peace, he says, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, when every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. And, you know, I think, may we continue to do the exquisitely beautiful, wonderful work that you are both doing out in the world. Thank you for who you are, for the choices that you've made. For those watching either with us live or after the fact, you can either reach out. The best way really to get in touch with Eddy or Elaine, you can reach out to me at lisa@charterforcompassion.org, and I will facilitate that connection for you. You can also find out about Dr. Elaine Christine's work through drelainechristine.com, and Eddy's work through, and I had it and it just disappeared off screen. Eddy, what's the best way for people to?
You will send them an email. You will send them an email.
Okay, perfect. I'm very happy to do introductions for that on anyone. So thank you both. And our next and final series of Through the Lens of MLK is Understanding the Other, from Racism to Sexism, with award-winning singer-songwriter Aliza Hava, who's also been a political activist recognized by the UN, etc. And I'm going to put some of that information on the screen as we all sign out. But very quickly, Eddy or Elaine, any last-minute words you'd like to share? Oh, Elaine, I see you moving, but you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say thanks for that final quote from MLK. That was a perfect one. We are free from hate, free from violence, free from prejudice, so that we are free to love, free to laugh, and free to live. Thank you, Eddy. Thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you very much, everyone. Prejudices are sources of the conflicts. Once we avoid prejudices to other people, other societies, then the conflict and putting down people goes away, because you start saying, yeah, he doesn't know this, but that's okay. That's okay. Yes, he's not me, he's not from us, but that's okay. That's okay. He's not smart like me, but that is okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, you guys. And Christine, why don't we think of writing a book of We Are Flowers? We are 3 flowers.
There you go. We are flowers. All right.
We shall talk about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Doctor.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you. And we hope to see you all on our next call, which is actually tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you should be seeing it on the slide in front of you. Whoops. Right. Okay,
Bye.
there we go. All right. We hope to see you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And thank you, everyone who has been here with us. What a gift and what a blessing. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.